We are live.
We're live.
We're live.
Yay, Allison. I'm so glad you're here.
I know, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Okay, so I guess we can introduce ourselves,
Okay.
or like how we met. I mean, you worked for me. That's kind of not the beginning of your story, though, right? Because
Yeah.
you did some lingerie coffee before me.
Yep. So that's actually, well.
You were a
basic-
veteran when you came to me.
Yeah. Yeah, coming to Spokane actually kind of ties into a lot of my, with the addiction story and the bikini work and stuff, because I don't know if I would have came over here if I didn't know they had bikini coffee, honestly. Because at the time, I started drinking when I was like 15 years old, I'd say. So once I got into bikini coffee, I think I was around 20 maybe. So I wasn't quite 21 yet. But I wanted to stay around that part of Washington because I was from around Olympia, Seattle area. And that was pretty much all I knew was bikini coffee. And so when I had a friend that came over here and was talking about moving here, then I started researching, and I literally just, because I didn't know if there was any bikini stands over here, but I figured that maybe I'd look because it was Washington and I knew it was a Washington thing.
Why'd you want to move over here?
Because both of him and I were pretty like heavily into drugs and alcohol and stuff, and I was still stuck in my hometown, and I really wanted to get out. He did too, and he actually had a cousin that lived over here, and so he just kind of was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving. Like, I got to get sober," because he was into a little bit heavier stuff than I was, so it was kind of more serious for him.
Was that the dude that asked you if he was an alcoholic? And you were like, hell yeah.
Oh, no. No, so this actually, he was, we were friends for a few years, just like party friends. We hadn't really talked about dating or anything like that, but I actually ended up cheating on my boyfriend with him and broke up my relationship. So I was like in a very, very like traumatic place. I was like really heartbroken over that, and I was mad at myself. Obviously, it had to do with drugs and alcohol that happened. And so, but after the fact, obviously my boyfriend didn't talk to me anymore, but me and him were still friends. And I was just like, well, you know, that sucks. And so we were just friends. And then when he moved over, then we actually ended up dating. But it wasn't like a love thing. It wasn't that I really actually, I don't think we were really compatible, but we were just good friends. And we ended up moving in together, and kind of, it was more of out of necessity because neither of us really had that much of an income. So we're like, okay, well, if we move together, then we only have to pay half of everything.
And that was the drug dealer, right? That you were with for a while?
No, that was later, actually.
Oh.
That was before him. So, yeah, when me and Brandon were together, we lived here for probably about a month. Like, I did end up coming over, researched, obviously, that there was bikini stands, asked about it, got basically hired before. I was like, look, I don't want to move unless I have a job like secured.
I think I remember that, actually.
Yeah, and so I was like, I have a lot of experience. I promise you, I'm really good at my job. I have good sales. I have, you know, I love what I do. And so basically I had a job secured before I came over here, because I wasn't about to come over here and like not know what I was doing. So yeah, we ended up moving in together, and we did stay sober for, I'd say probably about a month if I had to guess. And then it just went back to, it wasn't as crazy at first, but he started working at a bar. And so I would go and hang out with him at the bar. And then I started drinking. And so both of us started drinking together. And it just kind of went downhill from there. It was a slow trajectory, but...
Yeah, because you worked for me for a while, and I didn't really notice anything. I knew that you partied hard, but it never showed in your work.
No, it didn't affect me for a really long time, actually, because I think the biggest part of that was because me and him were still dating, and we did have like fights here and there, but I was still kind of, I'd say, under wraps because I was dating him, and so usually we would drink together. And when I have a boyfriend and we go out and party together, I always felt like they were kind of like my bodyguard. And so I really wouldn't get into, I mean, I might do like drugs here and there, but it wasn't ever too crazy because we would go home together. We might drink at home. But it wasn't until we broke up and I moved out into my own place in the valley that things like just went downhill really quick.
Okay, so you were with him. And then what stand did you get hired at? And who is your manager? I don't know if we should, maybe we could shorten their names or give them a nickname or something.
Yeah.
But was it Shell?
That was interesting.
Oh, shit.
Yes. So Yeah, and that's another. I actually just remembered this the other day. She hired me. That was my manager, and immediately within the first couple weeks of me working there, before even meeting you, I was being accused of stealing, and that was like really scary for me because
especially because I trusted you from the minute I met you. I was like, I like this girl. I can trust her. She's got tons of potential.
Yeah,
not just for working for me, but I mean just in life
in general.
You know?
Yeah. It was probably one of the weirdest experiences I've had. And I wasn't really sure what to kind of do with that at first because I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any of the girls. I didn't have any loyalty with you or your company. I just started working there. So I was like, I'm going to get fired. Like, I'm going to lose my job. I'm not. And then obviously it ended up working out the way it did. And I talked to you and, you were like, no, I know that you wouldn't do that, and so you trusted me. Well,
let's remember, was that the time when we were in the stand and she was standing there, like basically beating a dead horse? You were totally like, okay, never again, like it'll never happen again. And it was just kind of like, you were just like, whatever, I just want to let this go. And I was like, okay, we're done. Like, was that situation? Am I remembering that right?
It kept happening. And then, I didn't realize, I didn't know about her. I didn't know her lifestyle. I didn't know her at all. But then once I started working there more and like just hearing the things that she was like speaking about and like her lifestyle outside of work and stuff, it kind of made a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
And like she seemed a little bit more like untrustworthy than I did. Yeah. So then I wasn't worried about it. Cause at first I was like, oh, this girl's awesome. Like I loved her at the beginning. And then like the more and more I talked to her, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. You know, I was like, I
think
get it.
I started to figure it out too during that meeting. I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yep. So, and I knew, I was like, after I met you, I was like, I know that you will make the best decision for yourself and you'll like know what's going on. I was like, she has a good head on her shoulders. Like, I don't need to be the one to try and like tell anyone things or anything. I was like, if it's that blatant to me and I don't know this person and like she's obviously known her for longer than me, I was like, she'll get what's going on. So I was very grateful that I got to keep my job though. And downtown was my baby for a while.
Well, because then she must have left and then you took her position.
So that but I mean, like we were talking about, I was like, if you, the kind of effort, the energy that you're putting out is what you're going to get back. So if she's taking her job for granted and if she's not willing to put in the work, like somebody that wants it, I loved that job so much. And I was like, I will show you that I am a good employee. I didn't go into it by any means trying to take anyone's job, but I was just like, I'm going to go in, be me, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. And if I get rewarded by taking someone's job, then so be it. You know, I felt like I deserved it.
Yes, and you did bomb at that job. I remember when you finally did leave, I was like, no. I mean, when things finally got too bad. But you can take us to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you just couldn't show up anymore, and I was just like, why, Alison? Why?
Same. No, it was heartbreaking for me too because I knew I never, in my core of me, I never meant to do anything to the stand or to the girls or to my job. You know, it was never. But addiction and like alcohol and drugs are insane. Like they are insane. They are unbelievably strong. And so back to where we broke up, it was we were just doing too much drinking, too much drugs, and too many arguments. And once it got physical, I was like, I've been here before, because in the past I'd been in a very abusive relationship. So once I saw that happening, I was like, I got to move out. And I had been working for you for like a long enough time to know I knew how much money I was making, and I pretty much supported more of our lifestyle than he did. So that's why I moved out, and I ended up moving to the Valley. And then I could not be alone, and I was alone all the time because he wasn't home. And so my house was literally it was empty. I was never there. I was either at the bar or I would go to work. And then it became a point where I would try to go like party all night long and then have people drop me off at the stand. I would open at 4 a.m. and I would still be like
that still took forever though, because you worked for me for so long.
Yeah, I didn't do it for the very tail end. The very tail end. I think that was mostly it. Was that I didn't want to go home, and even when I did go home, I started drinking by myself, which I hadn't really ever done. And so then because I had a liquor store right next to my house, so I'd go home,
just walk over there,
go to the liquor store, go home, like drink, and then sometimes I would wake up, sometimes I wouldn't.
Well, so let me say this though, because when I was on drugs, and especially hard drugs, I was so dishonest. I was so not myself. I was so I was like a bad person, like a menace to society. So like throughout that whole thing, like there was never a time when I didn't trust you. The totals only ever went up when you were working there. Like there was never any funny business, like where you know what I mean? People get like sketchy and weird, and I don't know what they go through, but usually stealing ends up being a part of it. That was never the case with you. Like you had girls like under you that were obviously partying hard also, and you were so kind to them still, you know, like kind of giving them the benefit, like working between me and them, you know, and giving them the benefit of the doubt. So that says a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, and I understood, it's funny now because at the time I was older than most of the people that were working there, but it's funny just because I was young. To me, I was young at that time, but they were even younger than me. So I was like, I know what they're going through. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, I understood, I guess. And so a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. Like some of the time I feel like I might have gotten taken advantage of a tiny bit because of my niceness. And so I would just kind of like let things slide. And so
we have to tell this story though, when like I found one of the girls on Backpage. Well, no, I didn't. Somebody else did. And they were like, oh my gosh, she's on Backpage. And so I was like, oh my God. And like, so I don't know if everybody knows what Backpage is, but it was like and I don't even think it exists anymore, but it was like basically like prostitution online or whatever. And so I like showed her, I was like, hey dude, like this is on, you know, the internet. And she was like, oh my God, somebody's setting me up. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would do that. Like, how stupid was I?
I mean, I didn't.
I totally bought it.
Me too,
I believed it.
Me
100%.
too. Because I didn't do that. I didn't do that until like way later. And not with you, not working there. That was never like, I kept work at work. And I don't know about girls at our stand. I don't think well, I don't know, but
I didn't even really have rules then though either. I was really, really ignorant to the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? So it was just all coming up, and I like almost didn't know what to do. Like the premium Snapchats, that kind of stuff. I was like, I don't know. I know it's not illegal. I mean, well, maybe Backpage was. Yeah. But like the, you know, online, I don't know. Well, and that's pay-per-view stuff.
Yeah. Every girl is different too, because some of like myself, whenever I started doing that stuff, that's the thing, is that some girls that get in this industry, they want the money, but they don't want anyone to know that they're doing it. So like they try and hide it, and they're like, they do it on their own time, which is fine, whatever. But like in my head, I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, like I'm going to promote. Yeah. And so that's kind of honestly probably why it was so busy at certain points too, because I remember that's when Instagram first started like becoming a thing, and I only used it to promote myself at work. So my page was all me, and it blew up. And people would tell me that they came to the stand because of that, because you can tag location, you can tag, I would just tag hashtag Bikini Barista, do all this stuff, Spokane, Washington. And I know I gained a huge following from that. And so a lot of people would come from, if they were traveling, a lot of people would come to Spokane for work events and stuff from all over the place. And they'd be like, oh, like I'm from whatever state. And they're like, but I saw this. And I was like, oh, I'm going to Spokane for work. So I'm going to go check you out.
To give some perspective too, during that time, the totals they had never been that high, never since then. Had they been that high, I'd no longer have that location, but they were up by like 12,000 a month.
Wow.
It was like it was a huge amount.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah. It was a lot.
But it's because I put my heart and soul into it. Like it was my life. It was the thing that I cared most about, because I did have my relationship, which was, I love him as a person, but it wasn't a real relationship. Yeah. I didn't have any family. My friends were the girls that worked for me pretty much, you know, but I think that maybe because it was the one thing out of life that I got such good feedback, that I have goosebumps. I was so proud of myself because I knew that I was good at it.
Yeah.
I was good at it. I had fun doing it, and people could see it. They would come to me and they would tell me. I would get reassured. They're like, it's really nice to like come to this stand and see somebody that you can see loves their job, or that loves, what they do, because you can go to stands and girls will be like rude to you or this or that, and it's like nobody wants that. You're at a coffee stand, like you're there to wake people up, you're there to like raise the vibe, you're there to like give people their happiness for the day, and that was my job, and that's all I tried to do for everyone, and so many people were literally addicted to that.
I'm having flashbacks of your old manager and the stuff she used to do, the exact opposite, where she would be, do you remember yelling at customers out the window?
Yes.
Like, fuck you.
Yeah,
like,
dude,
what
it
are
was
you
crazy.
doing?
I know that. I'm like, it's just, to me, I would think it was common sense, and like, I can't say that every customer was like the most amazing person in the whole world. A lot of them were super dope, but like you're going to get all kinds. But I didn't care. I was just like, in my head, I was like, for one, I want the money. For two, I don't want them. I want them to go to the other girl shifts, but I don't want to ever have another customer badmouth me or have any sort of bad blood or have them think that I'm like bad talking other girls, because guys are more drama than girls are. They want to hear all the gossip and stuff, and I would never have any. I'm just like, no, like it's not. But just not putting out that negative energy, then it's like people are going to get attracted to the positive energy, because I'm like, I don't want people to come to the stand. Maybe that's their first time there and have a really bad experience and be like, wow, like that girl sucks. I'm never coming to this company ever again. It's like, maybe I just had a bad day or something. It's like, but you got to leave that stuff at the door as much as possible.
And you're smart enough to realize too, the team mattered. I've had girls that managed that I swear they were trying to like be the best or something, just based on what they were, who they were hiring. And I was just like, don't you get that like you want to have the best at your store? Yep. Because it keeps them just wanting to come. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing too, is like, it's a competition in their minds, and so they're thinking like, oh, they want to badmouth the other girls and want people to come to their shift. I'm like, but you don't get what happens if you're sick one day, or if you tell a customer a wrong time, they come when someone else is here, and then they stop coming to the stand altogether. That, as a whole, as a collective, it will make all of our incomes go down. I know people. Like, I know men that will come to a stand multiple times a day to see all the girls at their shifts. I'm like, there is abundance. There is no lack. So I'm like, sometimes I'll bring a customer to my shift multiple times and they'll still come see my other girls. Like, I'm not worried about them taking away from me. I'm like, no, because the more that they want to come see me, it's like I want them to come on a day when I am sick. One of my friends is here, and they still have just as good of an experience, and it's not going to make them stop wanting to come to the stand. They'll still come the next day and the next day. They're not like, I only want to go when that girl's working, and I don't know when she is, so like I'd rather just not.
I know, and I wonder if that just came naturally to you too, because that abundance mindset is just so important in all of your life, because it really does work that way. If you have abundance versus lack, you will have abundance versus lack 100%. In any aspect of your life. So have you always been that way, or did you read that somewhere?
Honestly,
I probably read it too, but
no, I did read it, but I think it came naturally, like honestly, because I remember, because I didn't really come from a whole lot. Like my family, not like they were super, super poor, but we were definitely not well off by any means. And the way I just was always really addicted to like more of a lavish lifestyle. And like I always had a core belief that anyone can do it. I was like, anyone can do it, and I didn't get that from my family, because they didn't teach me that. They don't have that kind of mindset. So I really do think that it just came from like my core somewhere in there, and I think we all have it. It's just whether you're going to believe it or not. And so I just have always been kind of an optimist, and and super grateful too. It comes from gratitude, because when you don't come from very much, if you do get like when I became a bikini barista and I started from not having that much money, making more money than my parents, as soon as I start working as a bikini barista, I was like beyond grateful. I couldn't believe that somebody my age was even able to make that kind of money. So the gratitude was just unbelievable for that job. I was
Or like we were talking about this yesterday about how so my husband, he saw pictures of me when I was younger and he called me DJ Tanner. Now that's fucking funny, okay, you guys, like I just don't mind self-deprecating humor because I really did look like DJ Tanner. But I think that like also not being born like the hottest thing right out of the gate, having a little bit of that ugly duckling stage, really like humble beginnings, like keeps you kind of a little bit more grounded, maybe a little bit more down to earth for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, at least in my case.
Yeah,
it did.
Same for sure. And that was one thing too, is that I was grateful for that job. Not before the money, I had actually been approached to even get this job because I was very insecure. I grew up, I was overweight. I thought that I was the ugliest thing ever. Like I hated myself and I hated my appearance. And that was my main goal in life. Literally my whole goal was just like, I want to make enough money to like, and work out and stuff to be attractive or to think that I'm attractive. And so like, that was my focus. And so I was like, I'm going to do anything to get there. But when this is a whole nother part of the story, but when I lived in Idaho, my parents moved out there for a short period of time. I was living there. I was 19, and I remember a girl that I went to school with actually reached out to me on Facebook, and she was like, hey, I didn't really talk to her that much, but she was a manager of a bikini stand for like a year or two, and she reached out to me on Facebook randomly and was like, hey, like, are you looking for a job? And I was just like, well, I live in Idaho now. And she's like, well, I'm managing at this place, and I think that I think you'd be a really good fit. You're super cute. You're bubbly. Like, I think people would really like your personality. And I'm like, me? I'm like, really? You think I would do good at a bikini barista stand? And I was like, honored. Yeah. Because I had done like camming and stuff a little bit, not too much, and not when I was living there because I was living with my parents.
How'd you get the confidence to do that? Because like,
camming?
Yeah, I have to tell you this first because I had the same goals. Like I was like, I want to make money so that I can stay young forever. I want to be as hot as I possibly can be. That's like something innate in women. Like we know that like our beauty equals like success. Yes, it does 100%.
Like it might suck, but it's true.
The truth. Yeah.
It's true. It really is. Sorry, I didn't mean
no. I just wanted to add that in there. I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, oh my God, that was like my goals. I was like, I need to make tons of money because it's going to be really expensive to keep up like what I want to keep up.
I mean, I saw what I wanted. I saw the people that had the things that I wanted, and I was like, it just seemed like the people that were beautiful and this and that like had more success. I was like, and people like beauty. We are like, I personally am attracted to beauty. I'm like, why do I like this thing? And I'm like, obviously I want to be like the thing that I like.
Oh yeah, like when I look on like the Black Sheep feed, I'm like, if I love it, I love it. If something's not right, I'm like, ooh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, I want it to be beautiful.
You want it to be something that you like.
Yeah. So what then gave you? Where was that kind of transition where you felt like you were so like ugly or whatever to like I can be a cam girl? Because like I could not, like I really hated my body so much I could never imagine getting naked on camera or in front of a bunch of people. Or
I think it was from alcohol. Oh. Because so that it kind of ties in. So I was overweight when I was younger. And then once I started drinking, I actually started, like I didn't like get small by any means, but I was definitely a lot smaller than I was.
You were small when I met you.
So yeah, because I had figured out that if I drink all the time, because I didn't want the extra calories. So I figured out like, oh, well, if I was drinking more, then I was eating less. And then that became... I guess I do have an eating disorder, or I don't know if you recover from it. I don't know. I don't think I have issues with it anymore. But prior to drinking, I feel like I did. But then when I was drinking, that was totally like not even a thought.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that until I was in rehab. And then they told once I stopped drinking, and then I started eating a ton, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize because it had been 10 years since I had even had a thought about it. And I'm like, oh, like, and they're like, okay, yes, like when you take away the substances, like you might realize that you do have an eating disorder, this or that, but that wasn't your focus because you were doing drugs and alcohol. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt like I was kind of cuter once I hit maybe like 16 and
16 was my age too.
Yeah. And I became more promiscuous. And so getting attention from boys was kind of like, I was like, okay, well, obviously boys do like me. Obviously they do think that I'm cute. Obviously they do think, you know, so I kind of just gauged my attraction off of what other people thought of me.
Whoa, okay, so let's go down, because this is kind of an interesting thought. Because I never believed, however I felt about myself, because it's like in hindsight, looking back, like at 16, dang, I was freaking cute. And by 18, like I was smoking, you know what I mean? And so, but I didn't feel that way. So like there was no man or no woman or anybody that could tell me that I was, like I almost felt like I was fishing. I would be like, oh, I'm so picking apart my body and stuff. I think I had like literally like body dysmorphia or something. My family would tell me so. And I just finally just quit talking about it because I wasn't actually fishing for compliments. I was actually seeing and feeling those things. And nothing that anybody ever said to me or whatever, I could have been like, oh, you know, like I just wouldn't believe it. I would think they were lying to me or trying to get something from me. So like, did you actually believe them? Or
it's not that I thought that I was like beautiful, and I don't even know if people even really thought that I was attractive, but because
I'm sure they did.
The more it was just the attention. I was like, the more sexual I was, the more attention that I got. So like I just thought it was cool that I was like the first girl at my age to like give a blowjob, and like, you know what I mean? I was like, I thought that was cool, and then I obviously got attention from boys. So then I was like, okay. And I don't necessarily think that I believed. I kind of tested the waters because I was obviously sexual before, you know, pretty sexual prior to camming. So I don't even remember where I even had that idea, honestly.
Yeah, because that was so freaking taboo back then. That was like, what?
And I think that might be why. I think I heard about it somewhere and I was like, oh, I want to try this. And I might have even started camming before I turned 18. I can't remember. But I just remember logging in the very first time. And I kind of wanted, and my feedback, I don't know if it's because I was a new cam and it promotes you when you are, you know, it puts a little green thing and like tells people you're a new cam girl. But there was so many people in my room and like they were saying such nice things about me and like how sexy I was and how hot I was and how like this and that. But like I'm a child still. Like I'm young and I'm seeing these messages on the screen and like, but I'm taking that like so. I'm putting so much value in that. And so I was like, oh my God, like these guys think I'm so sexy. Like they're telling me that they're like coming to me and like I got addicted to that.
Yep. Because it's like, a different time. Like how old are you now?
I'm 30.
Yeah. So I'm 39. So like 10 years prior. So that wasn't even like an option for me. So I see how that could have been so much, because I just had my circle, right? You know what I mean? But I can see how, like, because I've even thought about this on, like, I wish Instagram existed when I was my age, because then I would have seen body types like mine, because I'm, like, taller, but, like, usually when you see super tall, you see, like, super thin, and I'm, like, a little bit more muscular, you know what I mean? I'm not tiny, tiny thin, but now on Instagram, you see all these different body types, and I'm like, oh, I would have felt much better about myself, because I would have seen myself somewhere. Yeah. But maybe it would have even taken a turn like that, right? Because it's so easy to kind of...
Yeah, I think... Yeah.
It's so hard to see where girls, you know what I mean? Like with the social media and like what they're just used to doing and showing of themselves online, and then the attention that they're getting and what that's actually doing. Like, because in my mind, I don't even... Online world is fake as shit to me. I will. It's like, say it to my face. Like I don't. It's just
a
not
fake
real.
World and people are living in it, and it's kind of scary thinking about. And even myself, like I'm a total. I don't know. I've used it for so long. You get addicted to the attention, and it's like it's not real. That's not real love. You're addicted to the likes. You're addicted to the followers. You're addicted to the subscribers, and I don't know if it's just us as humans that are, and I try really hard to just separate myself from that and be like, this is not your worth. Like you are worthy with that. Like take all that away, and like who are you left at the core of you? Like are you proud of that person, and are you happy with that? Because I've met people that have, you know, millions of followers, and like that is what they put their value in. And like I was like, could you imagine like taking that away from them? Like how would they think about themselves, you know? And that was like sad to me. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool to like have like viewers and this and that, but having all these people that are not even in your real life and you're literally feeding yourself off of their compliments. Like, if you're going to live by their compliments, then you're going to die by their, like, hate.
Yeah, and I can kind of see, because I'm kind of like newer to social media, I would say, and I feel like I've made really, really good connections and friends with some people. You know what I mean? Like a handful, like where I will go and see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is sad that people can make it so their whole community. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, when you're, I mean, even
and raised on it.
Yeah. When you're young, and that's why I'm like, I couldn't even fathom what the younger generation, like girls that are 10 years old that have cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone until I was in high school.
Yeah.
So for them to be, like, everything is accessible to people at all ages. And it's like, if you're a like 10, 12, 13-year-old girl and you know, you're seeing this stuff, it's like it's addicting, you know. You're like, oh, well, obviously, especially if you haven't gotten attention from in your house or you don't feel love, that is you want that. And so, and that's kind of, I feel like, probably where I came from. Like, I always felt like kind of a loner and like I was alone. And so when I started getting that attention, I was like, I'm taking this for all I can get, you know. I was like, I love this. I ate it up. I was like, I fed off of it, but later on, I was like, it's not healthy, you know, by any means. And yeah,
I forget where we were at.
I know, same.
But that was a good little, because I trip out on that with like the girls, and thank God I have all boys. Like, I would be devastated to try to raise a girl, honestly.
Ooh,
rough. Like,
yeah, I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. Because even me, I think about myself as like a little girl and like trying to parent myself, and I'm just like, that would be.
Oh man, what I was doing at freaking 12 years old, if I would have added like, I don't know, sexual stuff to that. I mean, I don't think I lost my virginity until I was like 14 or 15 or something like that. And then like the one guy that like, I don't know, I just didn't believe the male attention, right? So like I was younger, and I didn't really blossom until I was like 16. And right at that point, then I got my first serious boyfriend, but I was doing heavy drugs from like 12 years old. So like that was kind of my main focus.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was like scared of boys or didn't. By that point,
maybe.
I remember looking at a magazine. This is so sad to be a girl, right? I remember looking at a magazine and just like knowing and seeing like the hottest guy, and I was just like, oh, he's so cute. I'll never be with a guy like that. Isn't that sad? You know, but I mean, I'm kind of glad that things worked out the way that they did, because I could have really.
Oh, you could have ruined your life.
Made really.
That's one thing that I'm like, it's so interesting to hear your story too.
Mine's a strange one, I would think.
It is. But even I'm kind of, not like I'm jealous, but I'm like, I wonder what it would be like to not have your whole life revolve around like you being a sex object. Because that's literally all that I feel like that I've been for, and pretty much, you know. As I was a woman, you know, even because when I started the first night that I drank was the first night that that was when I lost my virginity. And so that was kind of set the tone for, and then it was like, then people actually knew me as that. And I just kind of took that name on, and it was like, it was funny at that point. Well, it wasn't, but like to me, I thought it was. I was like, because people would talk about me in school. I was in a really small town, so everyone knew who I was. And I just was like, I loved the attention, and I was like, yeah, like, fuck your boyfriend, oh, fuck your boyfriend is like, and I was proud of that. And it was like, it's really sad. I do not at all, like, I'm just like,
I mean, we were kids, you know?
Yeah. But I guess I took the one thing that, you know, people, I guess I thought at the time liked me for, and I just ran with it. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And then when I got fake boobs when I was 18 years old. Like, I was 2 weeks out of high school and got those. And then after that, it was like game over, because nobody in my town was 18 years old with fake boobs. So
yeah, well, on the flip side of that though, too, I think that a lot of girls, and this is something I think a lot of women probably don't want to admit, you know, I mean, we've had those kinds of women like stalking us and hating on us and all that kind of stuff just for being in the industry or whatever. But, that wonder what it would be like and wish they were that sex object. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because so Jessica Vaughn, she's my spirit animal. I freaking love her. She's beautiful. She's sexy. She's like, I love her. But like, to me, she's just like a goddess. I mean, you saw pictures of her, and she's freaking brilliant. And like, But now I've gotten to a point in my life where like I love that, but I remember like being younger and being like, oh, I wish I could be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just like a different human. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like not my style, but I admire that style.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I think that it came from, I never wanted to be the girl. So I was, and I don't like to blame, I don't like to play the victim. I don't like to blame things on one certain event, but I was thinking about this the other day too, just about the podcast and like my life and stuff. And I think that the relationship that I was in at such a very young age was so traumatizing to me that I hated men. I didn't trust them. And I believed that they were all bad and that they all cheated and that they were all like, they could not be faithful. And so I never wanted to be that girl again on the other side. I didn't want to be the girl that like looked stupid, that was at home like cooking her husband meals when like he was out like paying for an escort or doing stuff. And that is like a real life out there.
You'd rather be the side thing than the main thing?
I was like, because I feel like that, like in my head, I was like, that's the truth. I was like, I want to be the truth. Because like at least if I'm the girl on the other side that's getting like hired for sex or whatever, then like I know, I'm all knowing.
Yes.
Because I know that you're coming to me and like, I don't know, I guess maybe there's a power in that too.
Yeah,
because
I'm
like,
a truth seeker too. I totally get that,
like,
100%.
I know you're coming to me. I know that you're in a relationship. I have the power because I can fuck your whole life up.
Yep.
And like, you know, but like, and so I guess I just kind of felt like, I don't know. I never wanted to be not knowing. I was like, if I'm that girl that's like sitting at home and like my man's out doing God knows what, or talking to whoever, doing all these things, and like I have no idea about it, then like maybe not anyone knows, but like you're a fucking idiot. Like, or I didn't want to be that. And I was like, and then to me, so that I can't say that that's right in any way or justifying it, but that in my mind is kind of what got me wanting to be like in that lifestyle, because once I was like cheated on, I was like, yeah, like I ain't doing that ever fucking again. I was like, I am never, the amount of trauma that came from that and like being my first love and this and that, and like the amount of infidelity that came with that, I was just like, none of y'all are good. I was like, so I'm just gonna capitalize on it, take all your money, because like obviously I was like, if you can't keep it in your pants, then like
I'm gonna take your money.
Like I'm gonna take advantage of this, because if you know, but and I mean, like I said, I don't agree with all the things that I've thought throughout the years, but
it's great to hear like where the thought process was.
From.
Because I've done a lot of fucked up shit, and I like to think of what was my thought process with that. My reaction to being cheated on hardcore and being like feeling fucking stupid all the time was I ended up with like this guy that was just, he loved me more than anything in the world, but just gross. I just have to say, just gross. And I did that for a few years. And I was like, I need to figure out what I'm doing, because this is just gross. You know what I mean? But I was that serial monogamist, you know what I mean? I was always just looking for that stability, probably because everything else in my life was so crazy. But, and then I saw my mom be, she ran through guys like you wouldn't believe, and she was so miserable by the time she was like my age.
Really?
Yeah, she drove herself crazy. She couldn't quit using drugs. She was chasing around this boyfriend that left her, and I could just now, I mean, you could see the results of her lifestyle, you know?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know.
It takes its toll.
It does. And, you know, I think that the three older girls of us saw her and saw the repercussions of that, and we were fairly tame. We were all, you know, serial monogamous, I would call them. Actually, Lisa's only had a couple of, you know, long-term boyfriends or whatever, but all long-term. And then my oldest sister's been with the same guy since she was in, you know, I mean, they've had their problems and broken up here and there, but since high school. And so, but it was the younger girls that never got to experience my mom that ended up going through like the more promiscuous stages.
Okay.
Yeah.
That,
So I now thinking back on that, that's probably was a huge thing in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And then I hung out with the naughty girls. So, and me being like the last one to lose my virginity, then like I saw kind of like the side, you know, like I saw like the guys, and we were all friends, and then like they would sleep together and then all of a sudden, you know, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with her or something like that. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to. I'm scared. I'm so scared to have sex.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that
seemed like a big mess.
Yeah. That's kind of how, I mean, I guess I just lied my way through all of it because I was like, I said that I loved it. I'm like, oh yeah, like you can sleep with me and like, I'm like, we can just be like, whatever, like just one night stand. And it was like, and it's heartbreaking, but like, I was like, I never wanted to be hurt first. So I was like, I'm just going to act like callous.
Well, I can
it.
see how that
like,
takes your power back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was
like,
it was just an ego trip basically.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, like you're not going to hurt me. Like I was like, I know how guys work. Like you think that you're going to like give me a one night stand and like, I'm going to be the one to like have one night stands and like you try and call me and like you can't get a hold of me. Like I'm not going to play that game where I'm like calling you and like
did the trick. Because that'll drive a dude crazy.
Yeah, when I know I'm like I'm not gonna be that girl that you go to your friends and like, oh, this girl we slept together one time and she won't leave me alone. I'm like, no, bye.
Yep.
So
okay, so wait, how did you get into? So you were camming when you worked for me a little bit.
No, not anymore. I did it when I lived with my parents for a while for a summer. But yeah, no, when I worked for you, I think I might have done Snapchat.
Yeah,
but
everybody was doing premium Snapchat, and I was like, I guess don't ask, don't tell. I don't even know. Like it wasn't illegal. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't until like you guys all left downtown because there was so much going on down there that I kind of found out later, and I was like, crap. I don't know. Maybe I should put like restrictions on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then I was like, no premium Snap, and then I knew that like tons of girls were. It was a lot. It took me a long time to get all that shit under control.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. And then I had to, and it wasn't just you guys. It was widespread because it was new. You know what I mean? So everybody was like trying out stuff, and I was like, dude, and I finally just had to think it through like, man, how do I know if they're not going this far online, the guys aren't coming through and wanting a show in the stands.
Yeah.
I didn't have cameras at the time. And like, did I? I don't think I did. No, maybe I did because I remember.
I think you did, but I don't know if they were like recording all the time or if they were on. They might have been turned off because there were cameras, but I don't know if. Yeah.
Or they weren't like, they weren't like,
running
like I would
time.
have to watch them like.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I couldn't take that risk because the cops, I had talked through all of the shit with the cops like multiple times, especially because of all the stuff that went on with the city. And I was like, so how does this work? Like, let's say, you know, because I knew I didn't have like full control over the girls. Like I could threaten to fire them or something like that. But like, what happens if one of the girls gets caught doing something, you know, then am I in trouble? And they're like, well, we'll give her a ticket. We'll let you know. But if it happens again, then we're going to talk. You know what I mean? Then it's going to be more serious. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I kind of developed kind of a system of like, there was no gray left. You know, because every girl's so different, like, you know.
Well, and people take rules different ways, too.
Yeah.
You can tell them one thing and be like, okay, like that. And then they're like, okay, and, like, kind of do their own thing. And they're like, no.
I know.
And, like, one person can ruin it for everyone. So, like, even, like, I did.
And everybody told on everybody?
Yep.
I was like,
and that was, I was like, it was tough because I'm not like, oh, I'm better this or that. But I had my own limitations. But I am a different person than everyone else.
Yeah.
So, like, I knew... I never did it at the stand. I had it, but it was like separate. I was like, I don't want it because that wasn't my business to fuck up.
Yeah.
I was like, that was someone else's business. And if I am doing things that are illegal inside of this place that is under someone else's, you know, basically like they're in charge of me. And I'm gonna do these things. I'm like, no.
Well, you were smart too, though. You knew you were making bank. So I don't know. You kind of told me like I would love to hear like what the perfect scenario was. Like, right, look, working at the coffee stand, you said was better because you made about the same amount of money as full-time Onlyfans after the people that took half or whatever.
Oh yeah. I could easily make more money at the stand than OnlyFans. Like I did the most money I made, I think it was like 9 to 12 grand, I think. Well, they made it as a total.
Yeah.
But OnlyFans takes 30%, and then the company that I had working for me was 20%. So I only ended up getting $6,000 at most.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm like, okay, well that's half. That's a lot. Like I could be making 12 grand myself, but yeah, I could make that at the stand. And so, and I'm like, and I'm putting in a lot less not less effort, because it is, like, you're getting up, you're getting ready, you're going somewhere, but it's like more fun for me because I'm in person and I'm just kind of, I feel like I'm just kind of hanging out all day. I'm like bullshitting with people all day. Like I get to make coffee, which I love coffee, and I loved getting ready. I love my outfits. I love, you know, listening to music and, you know, vibing in the stand. And like, that's a whole different ball game than OnlyFans. It's like, yeah, there's girls that make crazy money on OnlyFans and that's cool. But for me, I've had it for years, and the amount of money versus the amount of like value I feel like I'm putting in it isn't equal. Like if I put, not like I don't put effort into Bikini, but if I would put like this much effort, I would get this much return, if not more. Yeah. And then for OnlyFans, I feel like I'm like running my fucking ass off, and I'm like texting these guys all day long, and like it's like they expect everything for free. And I'm like, the guys at the stands are like generous. I'm like, they'll give me a 20 just for talking to them. Yeah. And these guys, I'm asking for $20 for a video of me getting fucked, and they're like, no, I'll go see it for free on like YouPorn or something. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm sorry that $20 is like a lot, but I get like people, it's so, that's everyone crazy. Has different values on things. And so I'm like, it just, sometimes I'm like, and then you start to put your value on the dollar amount. Yeah. And that's like, oh, like exhausting. If people don't want to pay. Yeah. Cause then you're like, okay, well, I'll drop my price down. I'll drop my, and then you feel uncomfortable because you're like, I know that my content and me, you know, like, being on here all the time and messaging them is worth a certain amount to you, and then you're only getting like a certain amount back, then you feel like it's not worth it. Yeah. So working in the stand is just, I don't know, in my opinion, it's more fun, but it's just because well, so then eventually you were working for me, you got really messed up, then you couldn't show up to work really anymore, and then you moved really shortly after that. What happened after that? So basically my lease was almost up. And I just lost my job for you, and I had hung out for a little bit longer. I had barely any money, you know, saved, not really at all. So I was basically like in a position where I needed to get a job ASAP, or my only other option, I was like, because if I did, I would have to get a job. I'd have to renew my lease, which my rent went up for whatever reason. And so I was like, okay, I feel like this is the universe telling me like, it's time for you to go home and try and get your shit together. So I was like, I did not want to go back home. Like I did not. And, I ended up, long story short, something told me to go to Barnes & Noble and read a book. And so I went to Barnes & Noble. I picked up the first, I was like, because I had a meltdown, and I was like crying. I was like praying. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? Like, I'm so lost. And that was when I wanted to kill myself. And so I was like considering doing that. And then I was just like, so it was bad. And then I was like, I went and got a book, started reading, and it just like, that was the beginning of my waking up, I guess, and like understanding myself and my like traumas. Or do you remember the book? It's called The Love Code. Whoa. Yeah. Was it so random, or did you go like self-help and just like grab? Yeah. It was literally, I was like, because I knew that there was a Barnes & Noble by me, and I'd always kind of been like, you should probably read a book. It's been a few years. That's kind of crazy. Know? And so then when I had this meltdown, I was like, maybe like go to Barnes & Noble and see if there's a book that like calls out to you, and like just read and see, you know. But it wasn't the self-help section, so I went there, and like, it was literally first book. I just pulled it off. And then I started reading it, and it was basic. I mean, I would have to reread it now, but it basically was talking about, it did bring up drugs and alcohol, and I remember just crying, but it was talking about like choosing love over fear was basically the whole thing of the book. And it was like how a lot of our actions are based in fear. They're fear-based decisions. And I was like, oh my God, like, I was like, I'm doing, like, this book is explaining me. And, you know, so then after that, it was just like game on. I just was like so addicted to I always was interested in psychology and why people do what they do, why I do what I do. So when I read that book, I was like, oh my gosh, like you could have just been reading this whole time. Like I'm like, you know, like where am I supposed to figure this out? And I'm like, read a book. And so now I love reading. Like I'm addicted to it. The greatest gift you can give the world is to get to know yourself. I always say that. Yeah. Is to know yourself as well as you possibly can. Yeah. I try really hard to be self-aware and try to figure out. Sometimes I don't know why I do what I do, but I try really hard to figure out why I think the way that I think, or why I do what I do, or, you know, with other people too. So yeah, that book was just really a big eye opener for me. I mean, I've read numerous books after that that are probably better than, you know, but for what I needed at the time, was like, cool, I needed that. So that was basically my decision. I called my mom right after that. I was like, Mom, like, can you come get me? Like, can you come get my stuff? Like, I'm coming back. And she's like, okay. Like, she was excited. She loves when I come home. But I felt like a failure. Because I had lived on my own for a couple years. I'm in my mid-20s. And I'm like, I feel like I'm starting over. But yeah, once I went back, moved back home, I thought that I was like, okay, like, I have my stuff together now, or I'm going to get it together. And I started working as a bikini barista again, but it was like a bikini barista / bar. So then I was a bartender, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, it might not be a good idea, but it might be a good idea because I'm still in the same environment. I'm on the other side. If I'm serving alcohol, obviously I'm not drinking it. So I did stay sober while I was at work, but then it was like all the customers wanted to buy me drinks when I got off of work. So then I only had worked there for maybe like a week or two before an event happened that like was pretty fucked up, but
Whoa. Can you say it?
Yeah, I can tell it. This is kind of when it was like my big decision, like, to change, really, because I was like, I had like little inconveniences and like uncomfortable things, obviously losing my job and stuff, but nothing really, like, I feel like rock bottom was too bad to make me want to change. And I guess I was probably seeking that. I kind of wanted a traumatic experience to happen to make me, like, you know, get your shit together, because like me kind of wanting it wasn't bad enough. So yeah, after work, I went on the other side. One of the customers, like, he bought me, I don't know, like 6 Jaeger bombs, and like immediately I got drunk. It was like 4 p.m. We ended up leaving there. I went to the casino with him, and then we got more Jaeger on the way there. And I don't know if it's Jaeger. I thought that I was drugged, honestly, but it might have just been from the Jaeger bombs, because it was, I blacked out, and I very vaguely remember we were like sitting at a table, and I wanted to get away from him. And so I think that I just ended up befriending like another dude that was at the casino, but barely at all. I just remember getting up, telling him I was going to the bathroom or something, and like never came back. And so I came to, it was like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm like in the middle of the street in this car, like having some dude like pounding me, and I was just like,
you didn't even know who he was?
No.
Whoa.
It was like this old guy, and I was in this trashy car, and I was just like, oh, like, really? I was like kind of like coming to, but I was just like, I thought I got drugged. But then I was like, but I know myself, and I know when I get so drunk, I'll take any drug given to me. So I'm like, I can't say that anyone gave this to me. Like, I probably asked for it, you know? So, but I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, where's my stuff? Like, reaching out for my phone. I'm like, I don't have a phone, don't have a wallet, don't have none of my stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. And I told him to get off me. And then I was like, where are we? Like, I was like, we need to go back to the casino. So we went back to the casino. And I talked to a security guard, and like, they weren't even being helpful. That was really actually kind of like the sad part, because I'm like crying, like, and I'm just like, I don't have any of my stuff. I'm like, can I just use your phone to call my parents to come get me? And so they came and got me, but they were like an hour away. So after, I just sat like silent in the back of the car, and I was like, what just happened? You know?
You never found any new stuff?
Nope. I had to like get new stuff. And, yeah, I guess because the guy told me that basically I found him somehow, or he found me. I was drunk walking around, and he said that I told him that I would sell meth for him. He was like, yeah, you said that you'd be like the perfect candidate because you didn't look like, you know, anyone. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like me. Like, and so, and I like told him all. And so, yeah, it was.
So he told you the story of how you guys ended up in his car?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So after that, I was just like, dude, you are going to get yourself into some serious trouble. Yeah. I was like, you don't have people in your, like, you don't have a male in your life. Like, I was reckless, like so reckless. Like, I would there'd be sometimes I won't tell you a whole bunch of stories, but like one time I like went to this show, got in this car, like was hanging out with all these people afterwards, and they were from Oregon, and we were in Seattle, and like they were like, all right, like we got to go back home, and I'm like sitting in the car drinking with them, And then I was like, I'll come with you. I love Portland. And so I like rode back with them to Portland, and I'm like in Portland and then I'm like, what the fuck? What am I doing here? And so I have to buy a plane ticket and like go back to Seattle, go to the show the next day. Like just stupid stuff like that. Like just did not care. I was like, whatever. I don't care who I'm like strangers. I'm like, I'd go with anyone. And like, dude, I'm like so dangerous.
Well, did you get sober before you started like doing porn and escorting and all of that? Or how did that work out?
Yes, but then I relapsed. So I wasn't sober when I started, but I did get sober for a period of time. So I got sober. It was right after that event is when I was hanging out with one of my friends, and then I asked him, I was like, or he asked me, he was like, do you think I'm an alcoholic? And I was like, yeah, like we're both alcoholics. So he ended up going to treatment. And then that's when I was like, oh shit, like you're going to rehab. And then I told him that I would be sober when he got out. 10 days in, I was wasted, and I was so disappointed in myself because I was like, I promised him, like we were best friends. I was like, something's wrong. So then I was like, well, I was like, maybe it'll work for him. And so then I asked my family, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be cool with that because it's a lot of money. But I was like, I have a problem. And like, basically I kind of had to sell them on it and like tell them all the accounts that had happened because they didn't know, because I'd been living in Spokane for a couple years. So it was the perfect crime because I could get away with anything because I only fed them what I wanted them to hear. So then I really explained to them how my life had been, and they were like, oh my God. They're like, yeah. So I went to treatment, and this is, I think, I was 24. I got sober for about 4 months, and then I was working at a bikini stand again for a little while, and then I met someone and we like started talking and hanging out and stuff, and then I ended up drinking again when I was with him. And then once like the first night that we like actually hung out is when I drank, and then a couple months later my drinking got like out of control, and he was like, well, I can't be with an alcoholic. And I'm like, motherfucker, like you broke my sobriety. Like, no, it was my fault. It was my fault. But I was so just devastated because I'm like, wow, now I have a whole, and they tell you like, don't get into a relationship after you've been sober for, a year or two, whatever. But I was in love. And so I was just like, whatever. And so then we broke up. So, and then like my grandma got sick. So all of this was happening around the same time. And so I just plummeted again a little bit. And then, I didn't end up doing porn. Let's see, that was when I was 24. I don't think I got into porn until I was 27, maybe.
Whoa, 26. What were you doing?
Yeah.
In between?
So I moved, so I wanted to. This was after that, I moved to San Diego. So that's a whole another crazy story, but I did get.
Yeah, how do you get into it? Because I actually had, we had a friend, like Mike and I had a friend that their daughter got into it, but like how the hell do you actually get into, like, is there stages of, or is like, there's only so many porn stars, right? Or,
I mean, it just kind of depends. I feel like everyone's story is a little bit different. So when I moved to San Diego, I won't like talk about that whole story, but basically when I was there, I had a manager and I was under contract, or what I thought was. It was all bullshit, but I was young and like I was like, I signed paperwork. He kept threatening me like that he would sue me if I, like, all of my accounts, like my OnlyFans, my everything was all under his name. So like I paid him money. Like I was basically, and he took pictures of me, and so I was paying him money. But when I lived in San Diego is kind of where I met a lot of porn stars. I had actually even been on set before as an extra on a porn set. Whoa. Because he was friends and filmed a lot of porn stars. And so I was like always with him. Like I was always with him. We were tagging around everywhere.
Is San Diego like the little porn hub of California? Aren't there like cities that are like known for that? Is San Diego one of them?
There was a couple porn stars that live there, but we went to LA a lot for it. So we would just drive up there because he was from San Diego, so we were down there most of the time. But I did meet a lot of people in the industry and stuff.
Because the industry's not huge, right?
No.
Okay, so I do have some questions about this. So like, if the industry is what it is, I'm assuming that like you have like scenes that you're willing to do versus scenes that you're not willing to do, right? Mm-hmm. And then like, is there a different like agency for like, say, the gay and lesbian porn, like chicks with dicks? There's so much crazy shit out there. But that all seems a little bit like, I mean, like if you go to Pornhub, it's all right there. So
yeah,
how does that all work?
I don't necessarily know if there's different. Well, I think it's kind of like an underlying, like people know what agency
does what.
So
okay.
Yeah. So if you're like certain companies like only take young girls, they prefer blondes. So like you can be something that they don't really represent, but you're probably not going to get as much work. So you want to go towards the company that has more of your style. So like the company that I went with was obviously, I have tattoos. I was not 18 years old. So like there's certain companies that wouldn't want me. So I went with my agent, and I actually got in contact with her because I contacted somebody that I met when I lived in San Diego and was like, hey, like if I got into the industry, like how would I even go about this? And he's like, okay, like I'll give you this person's name. And then he got me in contact. I forget her name now, but oh God, I don't know what her name was, but she was a producer of a company. She was super cool. Mm-hmm. And so I called her and I was like, hey, if I was to get into the industry, like who would I call? And she's like, oh, you should probably work with this agency. Mm-hmm. And that was...
Yeah, because I've been doing my research. Yeah. So there's like the young, right? And then when you get to be like in between young and MILF, it's kind of, you could have like a lull, right? Like not as much work.
I mean, it just depends. Like not as much work for certain companies.
Yeah.
Like you can, there's certain companies that like, if you aren't a certain age, like there's certain companies that I never ever even worked for.
Yeah.
Because I never like would have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
But the company, like the agency that I worked for, I went with them because they had more, like they had girls that were like around, like closer to my age and like did have tattoos and stuff like that. Which it was fine.
Oh yeah, I guess tattoos would be kind of a niche.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
That was a big one. People, they want, I mean.
You were super popular on there. I mean, when I did my research.
I know. I honestly, I feel, well, that's, because it's like, it's a time thing. So like, I started shooting. And I feel like I'm probably more popular now than I ever was when I was in porn, just because it's a lapse, because it's like your video gets out and it's like, it takes a while for that many views to like accumulate. Yeah. So it's like pretty much after I got out is when I started blowing up, really.
That's crazy. Okay. So can we talk about how much money you get paid to do it?
Oh yeah. Not very much.
Not very much. Okay. But tell me how you had that one really good month.
But, yeah. So, I mean, it really, I shouldn't say not that much.
Like how much per scene, or did it depend?
Yeah. So, which I watched that video you sent me and I was like, if you're like a top performer, you can charge a lot more than what I was getting paid, which kind of like made me feel uncomfortable at first because I was like, kind of pissed me off. But it was my fault.
But don't you have to work your way up to?
Yeah. And so, yes, you do. And so, from the beginning, my scenes were anywhere from like $1,000 to like $1,300.
And how long does it take to shoot it?
It would depend. Like some scenes would be like 4 hours. Some would be like, I think my longest scene was probably like 10 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But that's still good money for a day.
Yeah, it just depends. Because like some scenes are like, you go in, you get dressed up, they pour oil on you, and then you just like get fucked. But then some of them is like, there's a lot of acting involved, which, or the more people involved, the longer it would take, because like they have lines, you have lines. But if it was just like you or like POV, they weren't talking, the guy wasn't talking at all. So
wait, what's POV?
Point of view. So like you can't see the guy's face, you can just see like his, it's just like a camera. Yep. So, but those days are funny too, because it's like, they do take a little bit longer because it's like, you have the dude, but then you have the cameraman. Yep. So it's like, very like, it's not real sex, you know. You're doing it.
I know. Is it hard to get into it when you have all that going on around you, or did it depend on the guy?
Yeah, it was. I don't want to like hurt anyone's feelings or like, like ruin anyone's dreams, but like it's fake.
Yeah.
Like it's fake. I can't, I tried to enjoy it as much as possible for what it was, because I was like, you're gonna be here for a while. But like, we try really hard to not stop a lot in between, you know, and so it was easier on days when it was just like us and we were being filmed, you know. It'd be a lot, because there's a lot less like work going on. But even, oh god, the VR, the virtual reality, oh my god, those days, yeah.
Whoa,
like there's like a
camera
camera,
about that.
There's like a camera here, and there's like dots you have to align with, and like
Whoa.
because when you put the goggles on, like everything's all warped, so like you have to stay center, and like you can't be up too high or too low, because like you'll get cut out. So those days are like a lot more, you know. It just depends. Like there's
so how much did you have to work to make that, like, what, 50 something?
Oh yeah, so that month I think the most I ever made in 1 month was like 52,000. That was porn and escorting and probably Onlyfans. But I wasn't. Yeah, Onlyfans always kind of stayed around like $3,000 to $5,000 for me. That was kind of like the baseline for it. But yeah, that was probably, the majority of it was probably escorting. I can't even lie. Like I was getting scenes a decent amount, and more after COVID actually, so I started in July, I signed my contract July 2019. I started shooting, and like I was kind of getting scenes out there. COVID hit. So that fucked me up for like 8 months. Like nobody was shooting, and like the only, like some companies were, but it was only
even
like
porn was woke.
But even and but even like some of the companies were, and like weren't talking about it, but it was like I was still so brand new that it wasn't any. I didn't know enough
you didn't
people.
Have the
like
in.
If I was, exactly. So I could have probably, but. Even like I said with my agency, like they were trying to rip me off, and like I just didn't feel comfortable. I was like, if they come to me and like want me to shoot a scene and it's not something like too crazy, like I'll do it. But I didn't really have like a super, super close connection with them, you know? So maybe that kind of hurt me too with the scenes. But yeah, so during COVID, I got used to escorting more. And I could walk away with so much more money, so much more quickly. So I was doing both.
But
and then that month.
The guys that you were escorting with, you didn't really have that much say. See, I assumed when you were doing the escorting that you got to pick and choose.
It just depends on how you do it.
Yeah.
If I did it I did do it myself for a little while, and then you do, because like you can have people, I mean, you screen them, so and you can say no, but I didn't. If I just assumed, and I was like, well, and that's wrong of me for assuming, but I just assumed that if somebody was willing to pay like $1,500 for an hour, that they had decent money, you know, and sometimes they would. Like the majority of the time, you know, it was fine, but it wasn't all. You don't know what you're getting until you open the door. So sometimes it wasn't. And that was, but I did do it. I did book and screen for myself for a little while, but then I was just like, this is annoying, because I was getting messages all day, every day. So then that's when I ended up working with someone else and doing, so like I was booking for me and someone else was booking for me. Yeah. So that was, I think, and I probably traveled that month too. I used to do tours. So I'd go to New York and go to, I lived in LA. So like, that's where you can charge, New York and LA, you can charge the most. So I was probably, I was like already in the capita of the, you know, what you can charge the most for it. So I was like, why travel anywhere else?
Were you ever super scared?
I didn't really get scared until the tail end of it. Like it was, at first it was exciting. Like it was cool. I was like, holy shit, like the money, you know, and then it just got like stuff. I would have situations that were just uncomfortable. Like I'd have guys that like wouldn't want me to leave, or like it was just weird. Like,
and you didn't have like a bodyguard guy?
No, I would go places by myself a lot, and it was kind of just like I would just hold my breath. I'd go to hotels and stuff and like never really know. Like I'm like, I feel like people know what I'm doing, you know. I'm dressed up and stuff, and like I feel like I scream exactly what I am. And then it's like, and then the people see me leaving an hour later. But like, what are they going to say? I was like, if anyone approaches me, like, I'm going to visit a friend. Like, that's not illegal.
Yeah. Well, at least if they know what you're doing, then if they hear you scream, then they
yeah.
Like, I'd be scared as shit. I would want like a bodyguard or something.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've always, and even maybe that's like wrongful of me, but I guess just because I believe in the law of attraction, I'm like, if I be fearful that something's going to happen to me, I'm going to attract that. And I always thought that in the bikini stand too, because a lot of girls are like, you know, that's so dangerous. And I was like, only if you think that it is. I was like, I just picture myself being safe at all times, and like being like, you know, that I'm guided and that things have my back. And that I have a good intuition too. So like, if I feel uncomfortable or like a situation is weird, I'll leave. And I've been in situations like that. And I was like, this feels really weird. And I feel like that's my like sign, like get out now before something, you know. And I try to listen to that. I'm like, no amount of money is worth my safety, but I really don't feel like I was ever in too crazy of situations until the very end. I had some weird interactions.
Yeah. I mean, shit, I felt like I was in danger and just doing the drugs I was doing when I was younger. A couple of times I felt very, very scared, like where the hair was like, you know, standing up on the back of your neck. And that didn't happen very often, but a couple of times where I was like, whoa, this is a psycho right now.
Well, that's it too. When I was drinking and like doing drugs and stuff, I was very, that's why I didn't want to do it either, because I was very high paranoia and anxious and stuff. And so I could make situations out of nothing just because of that. And so I tried really, really hard as much as possible in the industry. I was like, if you can't stay sober, like this isn't something that you should be doing, you know? And so I did make it a point to go to all my scenes sober, and like pretty much all of my meetings or whatever you want to call them sober. You know, I can't say that I didn't drink sometimes after or during, like some people would bring like wine and stuff like that. And so I was just like, but this isn't, I was like, if you want to be sober, like stop doing something that makes it so easily accessible for you. Because people would come in, they'd have blow, they'd have this, they'd have that, and like offer me stuff, and I'm just like, no, like I'm sober. And it honestly made people feel uncomfortable. I stopped telling people that because like they thought it was weird that I was sober and they weren't. And I'm like, yeah, you're doing something that makes you probably feel not the best, huh? And I'm like, well, try being me, because I'm like sober, and at least like you have something to like kind of erase your feelings about it. And I'm like over here like sober as a fucking bird, like just present for all of it. Yep. So I got really good at, that was a kind of a mental fuck too though, because I got really good at like disassociating myself, because like even though I was there, I would like put myself not there. And so I think that was probably, so then what was
easier for you to do than, like, aside from like the money thing, was it the escorting or the porn? Did that feel easier, like showing up feeling somewhat safe, everybody's tested or whatever they say? I would say porn probably, just because I felt like it was a really job. Good money. I just was like, this is, you know, like I didn't feel like I was necessarily doing anything wrong, but I also have to, I just came to a conclusion that in my life, like, I want to do things that, because like drugs and alcohol make me happy and give me a very temporary high. And I kind of learned that was what porn was for me. So I was like, oh, like I do love it. But it was like, you do love it when you're there, because you're like, you're doing your hair and makeup, you're like, it's adrenaline. Like you're having sex, you're being filmed, you're being watched, like the voyeurism, like all of it is just like a high. And like even after every scene, like I'd be so happy, and it'd be like, you know, and then I would come down from that, and I'm like, it was very temporary. And so then it would be like, then I was like sad again, and I'm like, sad again, or did you feel bad about it or something?
No, well, I didn't feel bad about it. Well, maybe subconsciously. But I don't know.
You were just like filling a void with everything, maybe?
Yeah, because like I said, I didn't have a social life. I didn't have family. I couldn't talk to my family about my lifestyle and my job. So like everything that I talked to about them was very just, you know, like, how was the weather today?
Oh, like, like superficial as hell.
So I didn't have people in my life to even vent to about my experience that I just had. You know, it was just like I would just come home and just like sit, and then I would wake up the next day. And like, so like I said, I can't speak for everyone, and I'm not trying to like talk down on the industry by any means. And like, for certain people, like if that's the lifestyle that they enjoy doing. But I just feel like I wasn't getting filled up in the like love and happiness and like, you know, good positive energy. Then it was more kind of draining. Like I was just like, I don't know, like I would like try and feel, I was like, okay, no, you do really like this. And then I would like get to some scenes or get to some situations, and like they're like a lot of, I did meet some really like, I think well-meaning people and like really nice people. But I was just like, for like, I'm just trying to visualize my life in the future, and I'm like, I don't think this is a stepping stone for me. And like, I did want to experience it. I was like, but I don't want to be like 40 or 50 years old, like still in this industry. And I was like, if I'm,
because there are some. I mean, and some of them though have made really good careers out of it.
And I believe, like, I think that they're like, if there's people that's like their like, I don't know, call it a calling or something. If like that's their thing, and like, and I know a lot of people that like have filmed and then they turned into producers. Like that's awesome for them. Like I'm not trying to take that away, but when I was doing it, I was like, I always, and maybe that's it. I kind of wrote my future, because I was like, I knew already before I got into it that I was only going to be into it for a period of time. I thought it was going to be longer than it was. I thought it would.
How long was it?
I think 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I imagined about 5. I was like, I'll give myself 5 years. Like, have fun, 5 years, you know. But, and then it just, little things kept happening here and there that was like, either made it difficult, or I was getting kind of like, a lot of like, some of the people that I were meeting were like dishonest, and I was just like, I think that these are little signs from the universe that are trying to point me in a different direction. You know, I really did believe that, and I tried to ignore them for a really long time. But it was like, the longer that I lived in LA and the longer that I was doing it, I didn't feel like my happiness was getting, I was like, I might have made a lot of money, but then it was like, what was I really doing with it?
But you're making so much money. I'm such a business-minded person.
I know.
I'm like,
and I tried so hard to like, that's what I thought too, because that's all I cared about. I was like, I didn't have relationships, because I was like, I didn't want that. Like, I was about the money. Like, that's all I cared about. But I was like, I was buying like, you know, Gucci this and Louis this, and I was like, you're still coming home and crying. Like, and I know, and I've read a lot of girls' posts, you know, that are like talking about, they're like crying for help, like about being depressed and this and that. And I know that, you know, I can't speak and say that the industry is what gives people like problems. I think that we already have them, and we go to that because sex is an addiction too. And like all of it is. And so I think, and just the amount of like substances that I was just like, I don't know, like this isn't, it just wasn't for me.
Do you think the super successful ones have a really good head on their shoulders, or just somehow keep their emotions in check? Or maybe a combination of, I mean, you told me a little bit of a story about one person, but
I've met a few. I can't say that I've met some, and it's still, I'm like, maybe they do.
I mean, the one that I saw that, I remember I shared the interview with you. She seemed like she was, after she told her story, that was like a legit, great head on her shoulders, like, been in the industry. She's like 50.
No, I agree. And that was another thing. I was like, damn. And it's people like that is like the reason why I wanted to get into it. Because I was like, oh, like maybe those people have it figured out. Like maybe, like, and that's kind of why I wanted to get into it. But then I also did listen in that podcast that she said that she did not date when she was doing it, and that when she tried to, the man that she was dating had a living girlfriend for like 6 months and was lying to her about it. So I was like, energetically, I feel like I don't know her personally, but like I don't know.
I think it's probably really difficult to find a good man like during or whatever. You know what I mean?
And I never, that's why I was just like, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't, I was like, I don't know if I want to be with somebody that's even okay with, you know, what I'm doing. I was like, I'm just going to do me and like not worry about that. And then like, once I'm done, hopefully I find somebody that's like okay with what I've done in the past. But I was like, if this person like loves me while I'm actively doing it, I don't really feel in the like core that they love me. They might be like attracted to me and whatever, but like, do I feel like do I trust them? No. Like if you're telling me that you love me and I'm like no, like no. So
I feel like you're pretty lucky in your relationship. You know what I mean? But you are a down to earth, really cool chick, you know.
Thank you.
So
Yeah. No, so is he. And I think that's kind of how it was like when we talked, and I did, we were actually talking about this the other day. Like, I broke down to him. He was the first person, because we had been friends for a few years, like 4 years or something. And, I went out to visit him, and we were like hanging out and stuff. And I was still working, I was, but I like flew out there, obviously not to work. I was just hanging out. And I broke down. I started crying. I was like, I hate my life. Yeah. Like, I hate what I do. I was like, I lie every day. Like, and I was telling him, I was like, like, for me, and this is why I question it all the time with these girls, that I'm like, do they really love their life? Like, do they really? Because I did a really good job of pretending that I did, and I know that it's possible. So I'm like, and then when I'm actively like in porn and actively like doing all these things, like, I don't want to look like a fool. So like, obviously I'm going to tell all these people that, like, yeah, it's so cool, it's so awesome, it's so fun. Because it's like, if I say how much I hate it while I'm doing it, I look like a dumbass, so like.
But like, let's be real though. I wonder how many people really are like, I love my life. Because like, dude, I've had like like a couple of my friends be like, oh, I wish I had your life. And I'm like, I literally hate my life right now. Yeah. Like, I mean, really, like, I've made a lot of mistakes in like the last like 5 years especially. Yeah. And I'm like, really feel bad about it. Like, really emotional things I wish I'd done that I didn't, things that I did that I wish I didn't. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I think about that every single day. I'm like, it is such a big curiosity of mine. I'm like, is there people that really to love everything about their life? Or, I don't know.
Not everything about it, for sure. There's like aspects that I really enjoy, but then there's things that I'm like, why? Yeah. And then like, how we love truth, right? And the truth hurts. So there's a lot of that, you know what I mean? When you realize like kind of where you're at or what you've done or whatever. But from the outside perspective, I mean, from somebody else, they only see like what they want to see, but
yeah, I don't know. Cause like I said, it was like when I was telling you the other day, it was how I got into it. Basically, I'm like idolizing, certain people, and I'm not saying that everyone in the industry is miserable, by any means. Like, I don't know if, I think a lot of every human.
These were just signs that you saw.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I'm like, oh, this person like so glamorous, like this. I want to be just like them. I want to be just like them. And then I like started meeting people and like going to their houses and stuff, and hearing them speak and like talk and stuff, and like either they were like high all the time, or they were like drinking a lot, or their house was like a mess, and like they just seemed like a mess. And I'm like, oh, like wow, like. Social media, like, you don't really know a person until you really meet them in real life. Like, you're thinking, and that's, we do that a lot to people, I think, and put people, and even I'm sure people think that my life is perfect, or that I have it all, and that I'm so happy and this and that, and I'm like, I have fucking problems too, man, so, but basically, like, seeing that, I just had to really start to question. I was like, okay, like, you idolize this person so much, and you say how much you want your life to be like them, I'm like, do you see your future, like, is this really what you want? And then I started to have to question what I wanted out of life, and I was like, you can keep doing what you're doing, that's fine, but you're probably gonna keep getting what you've been getting. I just was, and I wasn't satisfied with that. I was like, I've always strived for more, and so, and I'm proud of what I did. Like, I really am. Because I was brave enough to do it, and with no one's help. And I knew that I eventually, like, I wanted to make a name for myself, and I have a lot of positive things to like speak to the world. And as much as I learn and the experiences that I go through, I think I've already went through more than some people do in their life. So I would love to speak
experience
my story.
Is awesome. Like, I really do believe that. You know what I mean?
I've
had
teaches.
Like, it does.
Words don't teach. Experience.
Yeah, just
teach.
so like happens. Like, I feel like once you, in hindsight, and you have a little space between, whatever choice that you made that you might not be happy with or whatever, and then you can like learn from it, and like it makes it worth it then, I guess. You're like, okay, well, that was an experience, and like I learned a lot from it. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, oh, I hate myself. Like, there's like some things I feel like I've done, like I said, in the last like 5 years where I'm like, fucking, I hate that I did that, or I hate, and there had been a long span of time where I felt like I made a lot of good decisions. You know what I mean? But I mean, you never quit learning.
Yeah, no,
you know?
You really don't.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I heard something that was like experience, or no, it was talking about our memory. It was like our memory really isn't for like, oh, to remember all the good things, but like human, like physiologically, like your memory is only to remember things to like fix them, to like, oh, this bad thing happened and to do it better next time. It's like, that's really what it is for. And, but yeah, that's how I got into the industry basically, was just because I was so curious about it, and I had heard people, or I had done research after I was obsessed with all these porn stars and like their lives and stuff, but I was like, oh, like you can only get so far by like, you're like this close. And I was like, I wanted to know firsthand. I was like, I wanted to like go in, I wanted to see like firsthand what it was to be like, to be the girl sitting in the chair, to like be the girl being filmed, to, go to the events and this and that. And I had to experience it for myself. And like, when I did, I was just like, this is cool. I'm glad that I did this, but on to the next thing, you know? I'm like, I'm cool with I'm like, oh, I got my taste of it, and like moving along. I was like, if I started it and I was like obsessed with it and I was like, oh, this is amazing, like I love this, like all these people are amazing, but it didn't really, I was like, I kind of tried to stay away from people, because I was like, I'm trying to, it was like, it is a small world, and there is kind of drama, and there's like, I mean,
it's like high school or something.
A little bit, yeah. And I was just like, but I didn't get close enough with anyone to have, I never was about that. I'm like, and then like a lot of substances and stuff. So just trying to stay away from that. It was tough, but
yeah. So now that you're sober, so you meet Jordan, right? And then you got sober, or how'd that work?
Yes. So I actually, so, well, we met years back, but we ended up like being together.
How'd you know you wanted to be with him?
I don't know. We had been friends for a few years, so we had talked, not super consistently, but we'd followed each other on social media and whatnot.
So you were always like kind of attracted to him or something?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I never thought of him like that, like he's super attractive, and like I remember when I met him, but I was like, oh, he's a fuckboy. Like I was he's one of those guys that's gonna break my heart, basically. Yeah. So I never even thought of him like that. And he lived on the East Coast, I lived on the West Coast, so we never really stayed in contact too much. But when I lived in LA, he had a friend that lived there, and so he came to visit her, and like they were hanging out, and then I ended up hanging out with him for a few times, and like the more and more conversations that we had like in person, I was just like, wow, like you're different than other people, and we had so many similar views on so many things, like just the same taste in things. And so I was like, I'll tell this story. We took edibles and went to dinner together one night, and on our drive back, so mind you, this was probably the second or third time that I'd ever hung out with him in person, but I felt like I know him forever. But I'm driving back, and like I was like, we were just talking, and I would say things, and he's like, yeah, me too, and he would say things, and I'd be like, yeah, me too, and like just how different we are, And then I was like, Jordan, he's like, what? And I was like, do you think we could be like soulmates? And he was like, and I was like, dude, so embarrassed. Yes. And he was like, I don't know, like maybe. And I was like, okay, like immediately regret. And so like, and that night too, I think he even invited me in, and I was like, I'm good. I'm going home. And so I was like, why? Like, he's like one of my best friends at the point, honestly. And then
you just got way too tripped out.
Yeah. And so that was pretty funny. But then his birthday, we kind of didn't speak about it ever again after that, thankfully, because I was so embarrassed.
I think that's cute as hell.
Yeah. And we talk about it all the time now, because like I had no idea. Like I didn't even really I liked him so much as a person, but I just thought I was like, oh, maybe we're soulmates. And then, so I felt so bad because his birthday was in August. And so, and I missed his birthday. And honestly, like, it's because I didn't really know his whole group of friends, because he was like, oh, I'm having this big party at my house. And I wanted to fly out again that was the first time, So I missed his birthday. And then I was like, I'll make it up to you. I was like, I'll fly out there and just like hang out, just us. And so he's like, okay. And so then shortly after I went, and then we ended up taking acid. And that was the first time that I'd ever done that. And yeah, it wasn't even the first day. We just kind of hung out, like walked around New York City, like, and just talked and talked and talked. And then the second day we hung out and we went down to the park, and I was just like looking at him, and like, I just like felt it in my stomach. I was like, we look like a couple. Like we literally, I was like, and I'd never seen us in that light before. Actually. So it just switched. I was like, you're so beautiful, and like, you're such a loving person, like so kind, and like all these amazing things. And I'm like, and then that's when I broke down and told him how much I hated all the stuff that I was doing. I was like, all I want to do is travel the world, like be with the person I love, like see beautiful places, experience beautiful things. And like, all I want is like, you know, financials to like be able to take me there and do those things. And he's like, that's what I want to do too. And I'm like, do you want to do it together? And he was like, yeah.
You asked him out.
So we literally just like, we're like, basically like, did we just fall in love? Yep. So like the rest is history. But no, we had our problems a little bit, because once we got together, it was like, all right, well, fuck, like I'm used to I have a, you know, $4,000 rent in LA. I have huge payment. I'm like, because I'm used to just like, I just know money's coming in. Yeah. And so I was like, fuck. Well, we did have a conversation about like if I was going to continue to do it. And he never like told me that I couldn't, but I didn't want to. I was like, no, like I was like, even my friendship with him, but me like having those like kinds of feelings towards him, I was like, I would way rather see where this goes than be like, I'm picking that lifestyle. I'm like, because I know myself and I know my capabilities, and I know that the amount of money that I have made, it might seem like a lot to me now, but I know that there's things in my life that I could do that make like 10 times that amount. And so I just have that belief in myself, and I'm like, I'd rather be with you and like start our life together and make that kind of money with you. And you know, like, the money is cool, but that's the only reason why I was doing it. And I was like, I have a belief in myself, you know, that I can make that money doing other things. Yeah. And I can be with the person I love. And
I think you can too.
And that's rare, man. Like to have the kind of connection. I'm like, I've told people I've loved them, but the kind of like the feelings that I have for him are like, I was like, no, this comes once in a lifetime kind of thing. So I was like, this is your chance, like take it or leave it. Yep. So we did, once my money started running out, I kind of panicked, and I did break up with him. And I went back to porn and escorting for a couple weeks.
Was he understanding?
I mean, yes. He was he didn't really know what to do with that. It was really a lot, because that was kind of, neither of us did. Neither of us expected it. It was very much out of the blue that we even became a thing. But I was like, it was just so much so fast. And like, I was like, I overestimated my abilities of like, I was like, yes, I'm in love. Like, this is it. Yeah. And then
cut yourself off the money.
Yeah. When I really saw that, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, and so I got like, not resentful, but I was just kind of like, dude, like, I don't know what to do. Like, and I didn't like not having money, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable, and I was scared, and I didn't know, I wasn't really, like, I did love him, but I don't think I was letting him love me. Yeah. I didn't trust him, and I should have, but it was my whole life of like not trusting men and like not believing. I was like, this is too good to be true. Yeah. You know, it came to a point where I was like, he's going to leave me eventually, or like he's going to do something and something's going to happen. So I was like, I would rather like just go back to my lifestyle before I get heartbroken. Yeah. And so then I did. And it was funny. Like, it was, again, the universe. Like, I had like 5 or 6 scenes that were planned out to go to LA, get to LA. It's during I get COVID tested, and you have to have your COVID test to like shoot any scene. So I get a phone call. I show up to a scene. My results haven't showed up. So we're just sitting there. Me and the dude, we're just like waiting. And then I get a phone call saying that their COVID test machine broke and that they won't be getting their test results in for like a couple of days. So like almost all of the scenes, because I was living in Washington at this time. I moved back home to Washington. So when I flew there, I was only going to be there for a week and had scenes the whole week. So like 4 of my scenes got canceled. Ooh. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's not a big enough sign, then I don't know what is. And then I was just I was broken. I got a DUI. I started drinking like really heavily again and wrecked my car. And
you were sober when you were with him?
We drank a few times, but for the most part, like we really did just go to the gym a lot. But we drank a few times, and I did kind of like lash out. And I was like, I didn't want him to see me drunk. I was like, you're not gonna love me anymore if you continue to be with like drinking Allison. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't really drink. I only remember us drinking maybe like 2 or 3 times together. But once we broke up, that's when I definitely started drinking pretty heavily again.
Well, so this is going to be a kind of a controversial thing, but I mean, it seems like when you're with like a man, then you're more well behaved.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. I was the first relationship I had. Oh my God, I was fucking Susie Homemaker. Yeah. I would have his meals cooked for him. Like I would do like do his laundry. He would, all of the things. And it's not, I don't know. I guess.
I mean, there's something to be said about that masculine energy, right? Leading in your life. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel the same kind of, and that's why I've been this serial monogamous is because when I feel like I'm not with or in a relationship or whatever, it's like chaos and I don't know what to do. And the anxiety and the fear of making a mistake or the idea of being single and sleeping with the wrong person or do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't even know, but it's just like a lot of like women are like balls of anxiety, and emotion. I don't want to put too much like pressure on that in the relationship, but like he grounds me like a lot because when I'm by myself, like I said, all I care about is money usually. And so it's just like that, like consumes me, but then I'm not really worried about my relationships with anyone, my family or anything like that. I guess I probably just don't really, I shouldn't say that I don't care about myself, but I think that I care about myself more for another person than I do when I'm alone. And that or maybe you're just careless when you're alone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, because I'm like, who do I need to be good for? You know, which is terrible because I should be good for myself. Yeah. But it's easier for me when I am with somebody that I love to be like, oh, I need to show up for them.
Yeah.
And
I think it's just our human nature, you know? Yeah. A lot of that just speaks to our nature.
Yeah. So... So being with him has helped tremendously because he's been sober with me too. Once I ended up.
I love you guys.
Thank you. So do I. And so when we broke up, I'll try to make this quick, but yeah, when we broke up, I was drinking heavily. But I promised myself, I was like, don't contact him, don't bother him, like, don't do this drama thing. So I quit the industry and I quit drinking all on my own. We had not spoken. We blocked each other on everything. Like we weren't talking for about a month. And then I took myself to Hawaii on like a healing retreat just by myself. And I had been sober for I think 2 weeks and and not working or anything like that. And then, and something very, very, very strong inside me was like, call Jordan. And I was like, I didn't want to, but I did, you know, I did. I couldn't lie anymore. I was like, I love this person. I was like, isn't it interesting that like the more like anxious I feel and the more like money obsessed I am, I push him away. And then when I'm coming back into myself and I'm sober for 2 weeks, the more it's pulling me towards him. So like I really had to think about those things. And I'm like, okay, well, the better version of me that's like healthy, works out all the time, takes care of, you know, things, wants to be with this person. And I'm like, why do I want to give that up and like go to where I'm not caring about my body? You know, I'm not like, I'm just, and so.
Yeah, because you have like an awesomely healthy lifestyle now.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming and it's really kind of strange to think about how unhealthy it was at one point because
you were filled with toxins and all.
Everything. I didn't care. Yeah, it was like I would smoke something off the ground. Like I didn't care.
No, is that a weed or not weed?
Get me high. Like give it to me. Like and actually, oh my God, this is so funny. So years ago, when me and Jordan were hanging out, I mean, there was like a group of people, and I was like, I don't know, I was probably drunk or something. And one of my friends said that they had DMT, and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I love DMT.
And yeah, and he was like, that's probably not a good idea. Like, he's like, that's because I didn't know what it was going to do. I was just like, I just knew it was a drug, and I wanted to do it. Yep. And so I ended up not doing it that night. And then yeah, years later, we go to Tulum for his birthday this last year, and we end up doing like a DMT journey thing together, and that was my first time doing it, and it was magical.
Isn't it freaking amazing? I still am just like, what was that?
I know. I was listening to a podcast actually on the plane over here, and it was talking about psychedelics and stuff. And I really want to do like psychedelic therapy because I know that they did. It
heals your brain.
Yeah,
they've done some crazy studies.
And that was one thing with Jordan too, because he was like into psychedelics before him and I got together, and we actually, well, like I said, we took acid together. I fell in love with it. And then I've done shrooms a couple times, but I do believe, I can't like give that all of the credit, but like I do believe that it has helped with me being able to get sober and my addiction problems, because I've never, my whole life, well, not my whole life, but you know, for a very long time, I was trying to stop, and like it's felt easier this time than ever. And I do know that part of it is because he's sober with me too.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
I don't know if you notice, like, so I've done it a handful of times now, and like the rest of the day, I even did it like midday, right? And I was, the first time, I tripped out. I didn't know where I was. I was like, this is like, because I was, you know, they told me.
I can't believe
it's
you
only
did
gonna,
it like that.
I know. This is only going to last like 10 to 20 minutes, right? And I took a big old rip and held it in like they said, right? And just boom, almost like I took 10 hits of acid. I mean, like, where I was like, I'm at a bar to fair and I'm never going to come back to reality like shit. I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to end, right? So it was like I was coming in and out, forgot where I was, look at one person, then look at the other person, then look at the other person, and just like, where am I? Is that for real? Is that, you know what I mean? Just like I was so gone, and everything was literally like the most intense visuals. Literally like I had taken like 10 hits of acid, and I'm like, I am going to come down from this, right? Like, and then when you come down, like, I mean, it probably took like a half an hour for me to feel completely nothing left. And then I just went on with my day.
Yep.
And I felt like, but though I had no anxiety left for the rest of the day. That's the one thing I did notice. I felt very calm, not tired, not like I had a hangover at all.
Nope.
But just calm.
Like at peace.
I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I could go that far outside of the universe and then come back within the same half an hour.
I know.
I was like,
I thought I died.
I'm still tripping.
I thought I died, and I was cool with it. I was like, I was just like, where? I was like, where am I? For one, like, who am I? Am I Allison? Like, I didn't even know. I was like, am I a girl? Am I a boy? And I was like, oh shit, did I die? Like, I was like, am I out there now? And like, I'm never coming back. And I'm like, oh, this is me now. Like, I was like, it kind of took the fear away from like actually dying. Cause I'm like,
what about your visuals? Did you have?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. It was all colorful. It was green, like bright neon greens and reds and blues. And there was this noise too. I can't remember, but it was like, and I think they might have been playing music too. So that might have been part of it. But yeah, it was weird. It was like, I just felt like it was like cyclic. It was like kind of the infinite. I felt like I was like going in and out, and I was like feeling repeating everything. Yeah.
Yes, the repeating thing was happening to me. I was like, did you just say that?
Yeah.
Did you? And then I had my medicine woman. She's like, yes. Just close your eyes. I was like, I can't. Everything was emerald green and beautiful and triangular, and
everything was triangles.
Yes,
and,
so intense.
Yep.
I wish I was a little bit. I wish I would have been in a better, because I didn't take a big hit like that again. Like, I want to, but I want to make sure that
we'll have to go on like a journey or something. Because our experience in Tulum it was hours long, but we did like a Tesmacol and like went into a sweat lodge and and
so did you take something that made it last longer?
Day. No, but the thing wasn't as long, but like we did I don't know, rituals, I guess, beforehand. So like we like went into the sweat lodge and like literally just we did all these meditations, and like there was like rocks and put the like water on the rocks and like there was like flowers, and we were like got dirty and sweaty and everything, and then we were putting like oils on it. It was like we did the whole ritual and then went into it, or actually we did, oh God, I forget the name of it, but it's something that you like blow in your nose to like clear out energies. So we did that first. So like I felt like going into it, I was a little bit scared, but then by the time I got there, I felt so safe and so comfortable. And so then, we ended up doing it twice, and it was wild. I remember like when I finally started coming to, and I was just like, I was like, oh my God, I'm my body again. So I was super grateful for that. Yeah. I was like grateful to be me. And then I look over and I remember seeing Jordan, and he just had this big grin on his face. And I just started like hysterically laughing, like tears running down my face. I was like, oh my God. And I just hugged him. I was like, it's you. Like, it's us. Like, I love you. Like, it was just, it was beautiful. So, but I would love to do one with you. I'm like, it was that kind of, I've been looking, because after I listened to the podcast about psychedelic therapy and stuff, I know that they do things that are, a few days long. And I think that would be something really cool, because
and I love like the control of the shortened, you know what I mean? Like you take acid, you take mushrooms, and you're like, this is going to be for however long, you know what I mean? But I was like, went way out there and then came back in such a short amount of time, and then I was just like, I like that. That's cool.
No, it was awesome. I'm super grateful for that experience, and it's wild. I'm like, it's so freaking wild. I know. Like, I look at everything differently now. I'm like, I literally look at the world differently. I'm like, it's just one big like play place, like toy set. I don't know.
Let's see if we have questions. Somebody says, Ashley Calkins says, it's so refreshing hearing real women having real conversations. Put it all on the table.
Thank you.
That's the one I did DMT with. She's my
really?
My Shaw woman.
Oh.
I was like,
I want to meet her.
Oh, she's awesome. I wanted her to be here. That would be cool. Oh, someone says, Allison, I was wondering, are you aware that someone has been using your info on Facebook?
Are you sure it's not me?
No.
I'm not aware. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably there's lots of fake accounts of me. Which is funny, because I try and delete them off of Instagram or block them all the time. And Instagram's like, they're not doing anything wrong. I'm like, they're not doing anything wrong pretending to be me, and then you delete my account?
How can I get this off? Somebody just said not a good word on our thing.
Huh?
Oh, I don't know. I think that's not good to say on comments or whatever.
What'd they say?
The grape word. But anyways.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why. Okay, cool. Well, we should probably end here, but do it again.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Wherever we are.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.